Hi, everybody. Thanks for clicking. I really appreciate you guys spending the time to watch this video. This is a video about a catastrophic failure, the absolute catastrophic failure that most drummers run into when learning the drums, something that I see all the time. Okay, stay tuned to watch. Thank you. Hi guys, I wanted to tell you about a catastrophic failure that I see all the time, and that is drummers. They spend all this time learning how to play the drums. They want to be great drummers, you know, and the way they learn how to play is by, most of the time that I've noticed, is they sit down with their friends and they'll hear a beat, like a rock beat, where it goes, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they'll learn the boom and the cha, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they pretty much go through their entire developmental process learning just the rock beat, and that's all they learn. And they get really good at the rock beat, don't get me wrong. I see a lot of professional drummers, you know, drummers in pretty major bands, you know, the pop bands and whatnot, and they're on TV, and, you know, they're millionaires, and they just get away with just learning the rock beat and only the rock beat. And the moment you ask them to play something else, they can't do it. And the catastrophic disaster that I notice is that they never learn how to read. And learning how to read is just as important as learning how to read English. Okay, it's almost like trying to survive in our world, and here in the United States, in our first world, not knowing how to read. Okay, and you've heard this throughout school. When you were a child, you learned, you know, what's the value of learning how to read, and the idea is so that you can get around, you know what's going on, you can sign into contract, you can read a contract, and be able to determine what you're signing into by reading it. You can get around town, read street signs, and so forth. And one of the greatest reasons why you want to learn how to read is because the sky is the limit on knowledge. Then, if you learn how to read English, and I hand you any book written in English, you could read it mostly, as long as you understand the vocabulary that you're reading. Some pieces of written English are pretty advanced, and you need to develop that vocabulary. So how do you develop that vocabulary? Well, you read other things that are easier to read, and you grow into that vocabulary. If I hand you a medical book right now and I ask you to read a medical book or a legal book, you won't be able to read it because you don't have the pre-knowledge on being able to understand what you're reading. So the way that's done is you start off with easy things. You probably remember when you were a child, you remember reading I am a cat, this is a cat, this is a dog, and then eventually you're reading high school level stuff, intermediate school, high school, and then college level, and then you pick a profession, and you can then read very advanced stuff. So with music, it's the same thing. So if you never learn how to read, you have to be shown everything that you could perform. The moment you know how to read drum music or percussion music, it now creates a sky is the limit effect, where I can hand you anything and you could learn how to play it yourself. So if you have drummers that are stuck learning just the rock beat or playing just the rock beat, now you could do the cha-cha, the merengue, the mambo, and other things that help you develop. So what you're stuck with is you're stuck getting lessons from a drum teacher, showing you exactly note for note on how to play a certain sequence of notes to create a rhythm. And to add to this complete catastrophe, this devastating phenomenon that's going on in the drumming world, is that drum teachers don't even know how to read. So you'll have a 35-year-old drummer that's been playing just the rock beat his whole entire drumming career, as you might say, and he knows only the rock beat. And then he posts himself online and says, "Hey, I'm a drum teacher. I want to teach you how to play the drums." And then he comes and he shows you just the rock beat. And then he'll sit down drum set with you and show you little things that he picked up throughout the years. And that guy himself doesn't even know how to read. And when I was teaching back in New York, students used to call me up and they used to ask me, what type of teacher are you? Or tell me about yourself. And I would always tell them first, I know how to read. And drum teachers typically don't know how to read, and their knowledge is stuck on what they learned or heard from others or what they developed on their own, because they can't pick up a book to be able to advance their own skill set. And I'm going to say something like 90% of drum teachers can't read. And out of drummers out there, I'm going to say, if you had a pot of 100 drummers, if you took 100 drummers and you put them all in a room, okay, out of 100, visualize 100 drummers now, 100 of them standing in a room, probably about 9 of them know how to read, okay? And maybe 1 of them or 2 of them can read intermediate level. And if you and out of that 100 people, nearly none of them, or probably none of them, would be able to read advanced or read very sophisticated stuff. You would have to have a bigger pot for that. Out of 1,000 people, I'd say out of 1,000 drummers in a room, you might have 2 of them that can really read. Now, this isn't writing, by the way. This is reading, okay? To be able to pick up any book and be able to sight read and play it is extremely rare. And that should be your goal. If you want to learn how to play the drums and you want to get really good at playing the drums, you need to learn how to read. And you need to learn how to read at the beginning, near the beginning. It's okay as a crutch, at the beginning to learn a 4/4 beat, a rock beat, because once you learn the rock beat, you could pretty much play a lot of pop music that exists now in the United States. You could probably play 70% of all the new music that comes out. A lot of hip hop music is the rock beat, a lot of rock, grunge, everything since like the 70s on. I'd say like maybe 95% of all the music that gets released is a rock beat, which is a symmetrical 4/4 where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, cha, or doom, doom, cha, doom, doom, cha, doom, doom, cha, which is the symmetrical 4/4. But the second you go into a 3/4, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, they're lost. Or if you go into a 6/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is probably your second most common beat. Or even a 2/4, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's pretty popular. But when you start getting into things like a tango or a waltz or a merengue or a bossa nova or a samba, they're oblivious to it. And one may ask themselves, why learn the samba when I play just rock music? And the answer to that is because the samba is a complex beat. And the mambo and all those other ones, they're complex. So the second you try to play a rock, you can add a little bit of a syncopation or a little bit of an add-in or a little bit of a fill-in with a little bit of a samba kick. And that little samba kick could be used to make your drumming, your playing significantly better. Okay, so what I wanted to show you guys is some of the books that I learned how to play when I was a young student. What books do you have to get to learn how to play the drums? And one book here is this book here. If you don't know how to read it all, then this is the book to go for. This was my very first book. It's a little worn out, but when I was about 9 years old, this is the book that I learned. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm going to put it up on the screen here too. But this book here is the book to go. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can see it here. Where is it? Hold on one sec. This book here. This book here is the elementary drum method. If you don't know how to read it all, like you don't know how to even count, then this is the book to go for. You get this book, you go through the beginning to the end. Now, if you find a drum teacher, you should ask that drum teacher when you hire a drum teacher, hey, do you know how to read, or do you know how to teach how to read? And if they say no to that, move on. He's not a real drum teacher, okay? To have a student not teach him how to read is a sin. It's a terrible catastrophe. So after you read this book for a while, my next book that I went into, now you see how plain the book cover is, by the way. You see how there's not a lot of mark. One thing I always tell people is if it looks like this, it's not a real book to learn how to read. Okay, learn to play drums with Metallica. Okay. Metallica is not going to teach you how to read. Okay, it's marketing. Okay, this book is $13, and it's probably all just it's just to prop up the drummer himself and using that drummer's name and fame to make the book sell, and you're not really learning the real roots. You can always tell the fake drum books, like this one, Getting Started in Drums, featuring somebody. If he's featuring somebody, they're trying to sell the book. That's all they're trying to do. All right. This book here is the book to learn how to play the very basics. Now, my second book that I went into was this book here. Now, just to show you an example, so this book is the Elementary Drum Method. Now, they came out with a second one by Roy Burns, came out with a second one called Intermediate Drum Method. Now, I've read this book too. This book is not so good. If you want to save money, skip over this book. And then I went into this book next. Now, this book, once you're done reading this book, this is a pretty thick book. It covers pretty much everything. It'll cover all the different types of notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, everything. It covered triplets, 2/4, then it go into time signature, 2/4, 4/4, 6/8, 3/4. It'll cover all the basics to get a good foundation. This is like your alphabet. This is like when you're done reading this is like being done with like the 4th grade in school with learning how to read English, okay? Then you go to this book here. Now this book is it's almost like a pamphlet. It's thin. And it's like a relaxation, because here you just completed this monster, and now you need like something to go through again where it'll recap you. And it's only like 20 or 30 pages, something small. 20 pages, and you could blow through this book in a matter of like a week. Now, what I did at one time is I used to pick up this book and use it even as a warm-up back in my high school years. I used to take the book and go through the 20 pages. It used to take me 20 minutes. But at the beginning, when you come out of this book and go straight into this book, it might take you a couple of weeks to complete this book. But it'll touch all these things that were in this book briefly, just enough to give you a good recap. And once you complete that book, then you go into this, rolls, rolls, rolls. Now, rolls, rolls, rolls will beat you up, okay? This book here teaches you the basics. This book will advance you into intermediate level. This is a great book for intermediate. It'll teach you all your rolls. It'll teach you how to hold a roll, read a roll. And by the time when you're done with this book, you're pretty good. Believe it or not, but with these two books, you'll be pretty darn good. You'll be able to read a lot of stuff, and you'll be probably in the top 10 percentile if you complete this book. Okay, and that is the foundation. When I had students later on, I would just pass them through those two books. Once you pass through those two books, this book is a great book too. That's underestimated. Okay, this book this isn't the right price, $37. You can find it for about $12 probably, but this book has all nard. Here, I'm going to show you on this. I'm going to come away from the screen here, and I want to show you the inside of the book. Now, you'll be able to read things like this, okay? By the time you're done with rolls, 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 and the basic drumming. Now, this book, once you complete this book, the Nard Rudiments, you'll be a good reader for snare drum. Okay. Now there's two classes of books. There's snare drum books, and there's drum set books. Okay. Now a good drum set book is to learn the drum set. Is this book. Now this book introduces you to, and it's a thin book. It's good because it teaches you just what you need to know. It's called Elementary Rock and Roll Drumming. Okay. Now this book, it introduces you to breaking up the different lines. As you can see here, I have some stuff in here. The top line is the hi-hat. The bottom line here is the snare drum. And then the bottom is the bass drum. And there's your basic rock beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and boom, cha, or together. Boom, sha, together. There's your rock beat written out. And if you learn how to read like this with multiple staffs, then you can get into the deeper stuff also and move on from there. But once you learn how to read like this, this will get you better. Here, I'm going to show you on the screen where that is. It is right here. This book. It's called Elementary Rock and Roll Drumming. Now, the next thing that's a complete catastrophe with drumming is the second thing, which are rudiments. Now, when I was a young drummer, this card here, as you can see, these little ribs over here, this was the back cardboard to the notebook that my drum teacher used to keep notes. All right, and the drum teacher, on one side he wrote rudiments, and on the other side he wrote beats. Okay, now you can see it's all faded. I mean, it's pretty old. But this is the rudiment side, and on here he has 31 rudiments. Now, there's 28 in the NARD standard, and there's 40 in the PAS standard. Okay, but this particular drum teacher, this is an example of what I was talking about before. Is this drum teacher that taught me? He only knew 31 rudiments. He didn't know all the PAS rudiments. Okay, and he also didn't know about the hybrid rudiments at the time. But when he taught me this foundation of the basic rudiments of these 31, which were the NARD 28 plus another 3, okay, at that time, I was able to learn how to read, and I was able to read at that time and be able to do more research to learn about the rest of the PAS rudiments, and then I further went on to hybrid rudiments. Now, these are some of the rudiments here. The single stroke roll, he called them the ma-da roll, which is also called the mama-papa, or also called the double stroke roll. The flam, the drag, the full drag, 5-stroke, 6-stroke, 7-stroke, 9-stroke, 10-stroke. The buzz roll was one of them for him. The flamacue, the 15-stroke, the single ratamacue, the double ratamacue, the triple ratamacue. If you at least learn the basic 28 rudiments, okay? At least learn the 28 rudiments. The rudiments are like your alphabet. Okay, this is like in the English language, you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, and your single stroke roll is like your A, and then your double stroke roll is like your B. And if you want to put a sentence together, you could pretty much do it with rudiments. And that's pretty much what this book is doing. It's taking a whole bunch of rudiments and putting them in sequence with each other, and it's making a piece, a solo from just rudiments. And it's really cool to read. But now what happens is these rudiments here, they have something called hybrid drum rudiments. Now, hybrid drum rudiments are like, all right, in the English language, you have the letter T, and it makes the sound t, t. And you have the letter H, and that makes the sound h, h, right? If you take T and you take H, and you put it together, you get th, th, like in the word the, right? 2 letters put together. And those are, in drumming, we call those hybrid drum rudiments. And this particular book here is called the Drum Rudiment Bible. Now, this book has the 28 NARD rudiments, plus all of the other PAS rudiments, plus 460 hybrid drum rudiments. So this book is your go-to source for rudiments, okay? So I would suggest this to be in every drummer's library. I would suggest this one for learning how to play basic reading. This one to get every single drum rudiment. Now, this is the only book that exists with every single drum rudiment plus hybrids. This is the only book that's been released, okay? All right, so it's a really good book. It was a bestseller. It hit number 4 on the top 100 list. I'm going to show this to you on my screen right here real fast. It is this book right here, the Drum Rudiment Bible. Okay, very good book, all the hybrids. So this book, then intermediate for this book to learn really good rolls. Really good intermediate stuff on how to read. This book will beat you up, by the way. And this book to teach you the basics on how to read multiple lines, okay? Now, after you learn how to read multiple lines, you then can do stuff like this book. This book is called Triplets Around the Drum Set. Okay. Now you need to know how to read multiple lines, but you could do this at the same time as elementary rock drumming, because once you get the sequence down, you could play it. Like, let me give you one example here. Okay. So this is written in 4/4 time. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see it. If you guys can't see it, when I do editing later, I'm going to put a screenshot of it. This is page 10. So this is written 4/4. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 bass drums, right? And these are triplets around the set. The top line is your high tom. This second line is your snare drum. And what you're doing here is you're going 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So you go snare, high tom, snare, 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 high tom, snare, snare, snare. So it would sound like this. Dot, do, do, dot. Wait, I'm sorry. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Dot, do, do, dot, 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 do, do, dot, dot, dot. You see that? So it would give you a form of rhythm. Now, if you could play through this entire book, triplets around the set, you'll be a monster at triplets on the set. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4. Boo do do da do 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 da do 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 da do do da da. But that's a but do do da ba da do do but that's a da da ba. And you could play a rock beat like boo do cha do 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 cha do but that's a da 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 ba do do cha do do da 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 do do cha do do da 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 sha. And around the set you go, and you could learn so much by learning how to read and just by doing the rudiments. Please, fellow drummers out there, don't let the art go to waste. Okay, keep the art going. Teach this to people. Learn how to read. Learn the rudiments. 2 very important fundamentals. Also, learn how to play the rock beat and stuff. Have fun, from your friends and what other people might have shown you. But that is a small piece of the drumming world. There is so much more out there. By me knowing how to read, I can go to a library. There was a library in Manhattan back when I lived in Manhattan. I forgot the name off the top of my head, but it was a music library. And they had stuff that was so old and so from around the world. And music is a universal language. You could pick up a book, from that, somebody in Northern Europe wrote, 100 years ago, and learn methods that individual learned, or learn some ethnic music from like Northern Russia or Africa or China, and pick up their music books, because music is a universal language, just like math. A number is a number is a number. A note is a note is a note. But words are there's languages in the way. You have to learn how to speak Russian for you to be able to read Russian literature. But to read Russian music, all you have to do is get the book with the music notations. You know how to read. It's the same language everywhere, except for the really old stuff like the medieval era, where music was different music notation, which you have to learn something completely different. But if you know how to read, and one more point I just want to make, drumming, rhythm music, there's rhythm music notation and there's melody. They're kind of like 2 different things. Melody is where you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, right? And music notation is a cutting of time, where you're taking 16th notes, quarter notes, half notes, whole notes, and you're cutting them up, okay? And you're making them fit within a certain time signature. When you play other instruments, you're dealing with melody, which is pitch high, pitch low, and people who play like the violin, for instance, sometimes they're just so terrible at keeping rhythm, and that's why the drummer or the maestro or the conductor exists, so that they lay the actual rhythm. They're worried about the ups and downs, da do do dee do do do, A B C D E F G, right? Drummers worry about da da do 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 da da dee dee da 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 da, segments of time, and that's what they're thinking about in their mind when they play. So it's a different music notation. My phone rang only once. Isn't that funny? So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate the fact that you spent the time to watch my videos. Please watch other videos. I'm going to be coming out with some more in the near future. Okay, bye-bye now.